Hello and welcome to the YouTube podcast series of Citiesabc and Open Business Council, Fashion ABC and Dennis Guada. I'm Hilton Supra, the Vice Chairman of Student Group, and today I am privileged to be interviewing Bryan Gentry, who's an entrepreneur, songwriter, music producer, actor, and author. This is where we interview people who are changing the world, people who are inspiring us with their achievements and their creativity, and the acumen and the use of technology. So in previous interviews, Dennis and I have interviewed over 250 amazing people and achieved more than 14 million views on YouTube. Now, this interview series on Citiesabc is in partnership with our platforms, Open Business Council, and a Web3 Fourth Industrial Revolution-based platform utilizing technologies that employ the use of truth and trust through the unique corporate digital identity, which uses blockchain and the deployment of data analytics, AI, and machine learning. So, Bryan, welcome to this podcast series. So tell me a little bit, where are you?
I'm currently in Tucson, Arizona. Thanks for having me.
That's a pleasure. So you're Tucson, Arizona. So it must be very hot down there at the present time.
Always. It's the furnace. It's just like hell over here.
Yeah.
But I got beautiful views of the mountains right here in my office. So that's always nice.
Yes. If I look out my window, I can see the mountains south of Lisbon. So in the natural park, Arabida. So
have you ever been in the desert? Have you ever been in somewhere like Phoenix or Tucson?
No, I've been in the desert in Africa. So the Kalahari Desert. That's the
my dad.
Desert.
My dad was a military man, and he spent time in Kuwait and Afghanistan. He said that Phoenix, Arizona, which is about an hour north of me right now, is literally the closest thing in America to what it feels like over there in the desert.
Great. So
just to give you some context. Yeah. That's where I am.
Brilliant. So tell me, your career started back in 2009. Where did you go to university?
I decided to skip the university route. I did get, a few acceptances to a few colleges, but I ended up getting a publishing deal right out of high school, and I was more attracted to money than debt. You know what I mean? No. And it served me well. There's part of me that wishes I would have went to school, like finished school or something, but at the end of the day, I'm doing the things that I love anyway. Yes. I'm just skipping the debt part. Exactly. And I still found a way to party. Believe me, in my 20s, I found a way to party. You know what I mean? So yeah, it all worked out.
Yeah. And then, so basically you must have been very, very interested in music from a very early on, because you've created some great music in films, etc. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. In high school, I started getting into music. I was in choir and I was in sports too, but I was really, in love with choir, with theater, with just doing all those kinds of, creative arts. And it was at that time in high school that I shot a movie, terrible film, looking back at it, but at the time it was fun. You know what I mean? We shot a movie, independent film. We actually maxed out all the local movie theaters in that state to play the movie as well. So that was really fun. And I actually got half the entire school out of school during school hours. So you can imagine I became pretty popular after that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, I had to make music for the film. And instead of licensing music, I didn't know much about that at the time, like zero, right? Yeah. I decided to just make music for it. So that really, working on I had an innate ability to do it. It kind of ran in my family, but I never really worked on it until that movie. And then right out of high school, people heard the soundtracks to the movie. I had some connections there, with some people in Nashville, producers in Nashville. They listened to the movie, they listened to the tracks on the movie, and they were interested in signing me. So
yeah. But the music that you were making was, obviously you're using a lot of technology in building out the score and then on that. Can you tell us a little bit more of how does that process work?
Sure. Yeah. Today it's kind of changing, but back then I had a actual keyboard, like an actual, long 88 key keyboard. Just built-in sounds, nothing too fancy. I did use a few software programs back then. I think it was called Fruity Loops at the time, which is kind of back then it was like the cheaper version of like Logic or Pro Tools or something, for example. Yes. But yeah, I think I used Fruity Loops and then just what was built into that keyboard and built out the tracks on the keyboard itself. So it was not very fancy at the time, but it worked.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of process, that's typically what I do. I start with just programs like built into the computer. Logic is a pretty good one. You buy a bunch of sound libraries. It's all digital these days,
Absolutely. But then there's a bit of wetware, I call, which is basically the songwriting aspect of that.
Oh yeah.
Now
that's changing too, because the AI is like people are starting to use AI, and I'm like, no, you can't do that. I mean, you can use AI for one thing, in my opinion. If it comes to songwriting, you can use it to generate ideas. It's like, yes. You know what I mean? Just look at the top 100 songs in the charts, and based on that, what are some good ideas?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. But don't let it write your songs. Not yet. Just wait.
No, but it's. I mean, at the end of the day, as a creator and a writer, you're like a poet. You're actually expressing yourself. You're expressing your feelings, and onto your audience. So it's if you think about it, AI can do a good job of putting something together, but how authentic is that? The authentic voice. What is your authentic voice? Where did you get that inspiration?
Right. Where did I get it?
Yeah.
Well, honestly, I grew up really poor. My family was extremely poor. We, to give you an idea, it was pretty frequent that we didn't even have like hot water, you know what I mean, to take showers. Mm-hmm. Even like my house, we lived in trailer to trailer, right?
Yes.
We had a hole in our floor. So my brother and we would always like sneak out through a hole in our floor in our room, if that gives you an idea. Yes. But I was, at that time, I was probably about 14 years old, obsessed with hip hop. I loved rap. Okay. I loved everything about it. I loved the beats, the lyrics, it's very clever. And that is kind of like what got me into music in general. Before, because now I write pop, I write country, I write pretty much anything besides rock. Not to dog on rock. I do like rock, but hip hop is what kind of it was an out for me to just listen to other people's struggles.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and that's what a lot of people when people say hip hop, people who haven't experienced it and got deep into it don't really understand that it's very expressive on the lyrical side as much as on the music side. And it really does, as you said, people's struggles. It does reflect society and what struggles people are going through in society. And this is an out. This was a way in which people could express themselves. And I can really understand why you liked hip hop in those early days.
And same with movies. When you're a poor kid, you kind of find ways to try to escape from the world. You know what I mean? And movies were my go-to as well. I loved watching all different types of movies. Like, I don't know about you, but when you watch a movie from the 90s, it just feels different than what's out today. Like, things are so digitalized now today, which is great. I'm glad that we're, improving in those ways. But when you watch a movie like Hook, for example, with Robin Williams,
yes,
Peter Pan, the sets, the acting, you know what I mean? The design, the clothes, everything about the film and the music, it just all like ties so well together. There's something tangible there. You know what I mean? And film itself too. Like, film itself is tangible when you watch an old VCR tape or something that's not so digital and so sharp and so like you can see the fine little details on the face.
Yes.
I don't know. I find that to be beautiful. But yeah,
I mean, there's something to be said about the they say the art of making films using the technology at that time, which is basically Technicolor, Kodak, all that sort of, those reels, and then cutting and splicing and things like that. Having done that for home movies when I was growing up, I understand. But it's got some rawness to it, which is quite realistic, because you're capturing something, you're not creating something.
Right. Yeah.
Which is quite interesting.
Well said.
No, I mean, it's quite an interesting time. You mentioned it earlier, but before we started this interview, that given my wealth of experience in an age, that I still know how to use a mobile phone. I mean, that's so. I was lucky enough to grow up with that whole process. I mean, literally, when I was 16, I came across basic programming.
Wow, that's so cool. Like over here, most people your age,
yeah,
they literally can't use their phones properly. You know what I mean? I've seen people, no offense, but I've seen people your age pull their cars over to get the map out of the back of their trunk because they're just not getting their phone right. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's impressive to see. I mean, like you and Dennis, like doing what you're doing. It's really cool.
Thank you. But then, there's some of the things you've done a lot of work in the movie industry. You've done a lot of work in music, and you've done some really, really amazing work in the industry. But then you because you're obviously based in Arizona, you started working in the whole idea of renewable energies, which is sun-tap power. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, so really the journey started when I was a struggling songwriter. Even though I had some cool placements under my name, in the songwriting world, you get paid quarterly. Mm-hmm. So you get these chunks of money once you get a good song out, right? And it's like one quarter you get, 30 grand. Boom. You're like, oh yes, I'm going to be rich. You know what I mean? Next quarter is like $1,000 and you're like, wait a minute, hold on a second. I got to make this last. I got to get smart now and strategic. So that being said, I ended up getting a HVAC job in my early 20s, heating and air conditioning. And I didn't know much about sales, but there was a guy that gave me the opportunity to do it. And I needed the flexibility, but I also wanted to make a decent amount of income from something that, if it's going to take up my time, I wanted to mean something. Mm-hmm. So I got into that and learned a little bit about sales just from being around the team. But during that time, I started reading a bunch of sales books. And this is kind of what inspired me to write 21 Hacks to Sell More Deals, but I'll get to that in a minute. Sure. I started reading a bunch of sales books and it was very helpful. You know what I mean? Like I don't like the idea of changing things that, are working, right? Don't reinvent the wheel. What is it? What's that saying go? I forget the saying, but, during that time I did well. I learned a lot about the industry, and just in general, I loved sales. I loved that it could, you can make some decent money without having to spend a lot of time doing it. But really, once my music started taking off and I quit that stuff, I did put it all behind me. My music started taking off and I started making, substantial income. So, but I've always had this desire to start a company, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to start. And I ended up starting an app, but I won't go down that tangent yet, but I ended up starting an app. Obviously, like, your first company is not going to do well. You know what I mean? You got to learn some things, you know what I mean? But I did have a pretty good excuse, but I started the solar company because I believe that the industry is coming. Like, I think that we are living in a time where, just like the railroads, the first tracks are being laid down. You know what I mean? And in sustainable energy, I honestly believe that road is just now starting to have a mass amount of people go through it. Yeah. Solar is getting huge, especially in Arizona, but it's starting to get huge. But there's more ways to find renewable energy. But this seems to be working well, and I decided, hey, like, I want to be involved in something like this. I want my kids to ask me one day, why didn't you do anything about it? Well, I did. You know what I mean? I did do something about it. I help homeowners move towards sustainable energy every single day. And that, to me, is inspiring. Yes, you can make good money doing it, but the impact that it has, it really is something that keeps me going. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at technologies today, technologies are really enabling the use of these sustainable energy resources, particularly, even as the ability to store it when the sun's not shining, and use that storage power to supply continuous energy. And in particularly where you are, in how many days a year do you have sunshine in Arizona?
Too many.
300 and
I enjoy
something.
some cloudy days. I enjoy some rain every now and then, There is a
Yeah.
monsoon season, but yeah, it's pretty sunny here about 95% of the time.
Oh, brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
So moving on from there, you did, in your work, sort of, I'd like to mention it. You worked with a TV series. You worked with Suburgatory. You did Heart of Dixie, both in 2011. That was your sort of your acting. You did numerous music as well around that for other types of series. What do you enjoy the most, the music or the acting or both?
Oh, man. Acting is kind of something I have not put enough effort into yet.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is because it is kind of difficult, especially these days. There's more requirements for diversity, which is a whole other tangent to open up. But there's a lot of changes in the industry. So if you go online as an actor and look for auditions, you're not going to see, if you're a white male, you're not going to see many roles. You know what I mean? Especially for like if you have different age ranges and stuff. And those roles are typically bitten up by people with an established career. But I love the industry. I love acting. And I would say I definitely like the music side of it. The music side of it is something I'm good at and I have not grown tired of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's very simple to do. I work with a company called BMG Publishing. They're out of Germany, but they have offices in LA and Nashville. But what we do is I have a team of songwriters signed to my publishing company, which is Lucid Dream Music. And every month we submit to BMG certain tracks. And just kind of give you an idea of how it works is you build a catalog. So if you have, producers in constant need of urban tracks, well, then if I know that that's what the industry is looking for, I'm going to start making urban tracks and start building out catalogs. So the catalog could have, 20, 30, 40 different tracks in there of urban beats or suspenseful music, you know what I mean? Or impacts for trailers, like large sounds that like really get the theater shaken, right? Yeah. We work on all those individual things, small tracks that are like 30 seconds, for commercials, full long length 3-4 minute tracks. It doesn't really matter. We just build out as many catalogs as possible. And then from the producer side for TV shows and for movies, they come onto this platform at BMG and they just start looking through all different types of tracks with keywords. Like I need to find a, hip hop suspenseful beat. You know what I mean? And they're looking for this stuff. And then if for some reason they land and they see some of my music and they end up liking one of my songs, which there is a lot of songs out there on that platform, then you have a lucky day. That's how it works.
Got it.
So it's happened to me. It's happened to me frequently. So have had a blessed career in music.
Yes, but it's also that creative side of you. I think that is very, very interesting because as we talked about hip hop being your out in the early days, it's given you a platform to be able to express yourself, and you express it through music.
Oh yeah,
this is very interesting. And now you're going to express yourself in a different way. You wrote a book, 21 Hacks to Sell More Deals.
Yeah, it's crazy.
The book covers a wide range of topics, including like prospecting, communication skills, objection handling, closing techniques to sort of empower salespeople with practical advice and insights to boost their sales results. Now, that's, you can write about that, you can talk about that, but it must come from deep down some level of experience. And you mentioned that before. You needed a day job to support your music career. So tell us how you learned all these skills in terms of creating a sales pipeline.
Yeah. So it all started again, back there in the HVAC company, but now it's when I started the solar company, SunTap Power. Obviously my main goal was to make an impact, like to get as many people as possible to move towards solar energy. And what I discovered right away is that I need to know sales in and out. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter how nice you are. It doesn't matter if you if you think you're just a handsome person, you're going to be able to get out there and just start making a bunch of deals happen. It doesn't work like that. You know, people have all of their own variables and obstacles you have to overcome. And we're dealing with people, you know, and I care about people. So I needed to learn as much as I could about sales. So I started reading every book possible I can get my hands on. And what I found was that although these strategies and methods work, they're not updated for the 21st century. They're just kind of an antiquated approach with, you know, how you're dealing with people. And the modern world, and Hilton, you probably know this well too, because we all have a sales ability in us, right?
Yes.
When dealing with people, we're very intuitive. We know when someone's bullshitting us. We know when someone's selling us. We know it deep down, but we might be nice and pretend, you know, hey, I'll let you do your thing, but I'm not going to buy from you. You know what I mean? Like, you know that in the back of your head, right? You'll be nice, but you know it in the back of your head.
Yes.
There's a reason for that. And the reason is because we can see when someone's trying to sell us. What we can see is literally tactics being displayed, right? You know, so, oh, sorry, we can't do that. You got to buy it today. Otherwise the promotion's going to expire. Yes. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, you know, things like that. So the inspiration behind this book was just to modernize some of the earlier methods that have been used for decades, but also give a new approach. And I would say the main takeaway for the book, there's a few things that I believe in. Obviously, first impressions are pretty important, right? And that's so some of the ways that people do that are a little bit antiquated as well. But as far as first impressions, especially in the sales world, you have to make sure you look the part. If I walked into a doctor's office and I saw, you know, my doctor wearing sandals and some jeans and like a sweatshirt with a hoodie over his head, you know what I mean, listening to some ear pods while he's talking to me, I would be like, no, I'm not letting this guy do surgery on me. Like, there's no way. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You got to look the part. Same with knowing your shit. You got to know exactly what you're talking about and not just the surface level stuff. So yes, you can sell people if you know just a little bit more than your average prospect. You can sell them on something, but I believe that it's your duty as a salesperson to know as much as you possibly can about your given industry, because that's your job. If a customer has a specific question they want to ask you and you don't know it, the other guy will. That's going to, you know what I mean? Like, you have to know it, but also sometimes knowing too much can hurt you. So it's important to speak your prospect's language. It's important to, you know, to get exactly at the core of what they need and don't talk a bunch of industry jargon, because you're going to lose them, you know? But the main takeaway I would say this book has to offer, and why it's important to update it for the 21st century, is, as I said, people are intuitive. They can see when someone's being sold to. So you have to be genuine. You have to be authentic.
Yes.
We have to redefine what a sales culture is. Most people, when they think of salespeople, they think of sleazy people. You know what I mean? And the truth is, it's because sleazy people are wanting to make money. You know what I mean? And it's an industry where you can make a lot of money, right? So it's set up in a way to maximize self-interest. The goal with this book is to do the opposite. You want to maximize what the customer needs and not yourself. You'll make more money by putting your prospect ahead of your own pockets. I honestly believe this. And the best way to do this, and you'll probably think this is funny.
No.
The best way to do it is to sell as if you're selling your mother.
Yes.
You have to sell each prospect as if you're selling to your mother, because you're not, if you have a good relationship with your mother, right?
Yeah.
You have to sell as if you're selling your mother. The reason is because you're going to naturally and genuinely find companies that you believe in. So obviously, if you're starting your own company, it's a little bit different. But if you're working for a company, when you sell as if you're selling to your mother, you want to find the right company to work for, because this is your mom. You don't want your mom to go with the company that is going to, like, you know, ruin her roof or something, for example, in solar industry. I don't want my mom to, you know, go with a company that's going to screw her over and jack up the prices and take advantage of her. And, you know, like XYZ, all these things can go wrong. So when you sell as if you're selling to your mother, you're going to find the right company to work for. You're going to not bullshit her. You're going to be completely transparent. You're going to tell her the truth about everything, the ups, the downs, the ins and outs the negatives, the risks. You're going to expose everything, lay it out there in the open for your mom. When you do that for your prospect, they're going to trust you. Even if there's things in there they dislike, they're going to trust you more than someone who comes in with probably a better option, but they weren't being as honest.
That's true.
That's all this really comes down to.
So the pitch is really, really important. A flawless pitch.
Yeah.
And within that, as you say, is that you are selling as if you're selling to your parent, and you're creating that high level of trust. Most good salespeople have a pitch, which is, an elevator pitch, a five minute pitch, and then they've got their extended pitches. How does somebody master that? I mean, you come from an acting background, so how does one learn that script?
Right. Use a like a computer and like do a slideshow, whatever it takes to make you comfortable. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, don't think about yourself. As I said, just don't think about you trying to make money. You're going to make a lot of money when you put your prospect ahead of your own motivations, right? Mm-hmm. So as far as a pitch, you want to obviously, if you've done your due diligence and you know that your industry well, you can speak with authority. People respond very well to people that know what they're talking about, right? Mm-hmm. If I came across timid and unsure about certain things, you're probably not going to buy from me. You're going to buy from the person that knows their stuff, right? So it's important to speak with authority, but also you want to make sure that your pitch is loaded with testimonials from other customers, celebrity endorsements if you have it, or just endorsements of any kind from that particular field. Transparency. So in solar, I talk about the risks. I talk about, yes, there are risks in going solar. You're putting holes in your roof. You have to attach the panel somewhere, and with that risk comes water damage. So I now want to explain to the customer everything we do to mitigate those risks. And for example, in solar, it's like we hire former roofers only. We only hire former roofers to ensure that the people that go up on your roof know what they're doing. You know what I mean? Yeah. Second, we're going to use the toughest quality coating we can get our hands on to make sure that the holes are sealed up properly. Okay. And it's installed in a way that it's rated to a category 4 hurricane. So they're not going to fly off the roof. Okay. You know what I mean? Yes. We go into the truss, the beams, right? So we want to make sure that it's done correctly, right? And it comes with warranty. So if there is, in the event that a doomsday scenario does happen, it's going to be covered under the warranty. So those things can help the prospect just, take it easy. But it's important to be transparent and just cover all those details. Obviously, you want to cover reviews, right? You want to use information that you've gathered during the entire sales process to tailor your pitch to them. So for example, if they were like, we're not going to buy today. If they came out right the gate and they're like, hey, we're not going to buy anything today. We have a car that we got to repair this month. It's $600 or something or whatever, right? They're going to say something. Well, my job is to not be sleazy. It's to do my due diligence and to make sure that I understand everything that they are going through, their pain points, their reasoning why they're even looking into solar. Obviously, I'm here, right? Yeah. So maybe in that instance, I would offer, hey, if we can cover the first 6 months on the payments, that will save you, if you're spending $200 a month on electricity right now, and now you move towards solar, you don't have that bill anymore. Well, now that entire amount, that, $1,800 or whatever that we saved can go towards your car. We can fix that for you. You know what I mean? Yeah. Throwing those ideas out. This just to give you an idea for you.
So basically, it's know your client.
Know your client so well. Yeah. Yes. And really hone in on what sets you apart from your competitors. Mm-hmm. Don't talk about your competitors in a negative way, because, I like to look at things as if I'm buying from myself. Mm-hmm. How would I myself, like how would I react to me coming in the door and trying to sell me something, right? Mm-hmm. I wouldn't like it if they were just bashing other competitors. Yeah. So just highlight the differences of your company and what your product or service, in the most positive way possible. Make sense?
Well, one thing is quite important. What I've over the years that I've learned is when of course you've got to master the art of creating a flawless sales pitch. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you shouldn't be doing all the talking. You should be listening.
Yeah. Yeah. It should feel, feel like a solution more than a pitch.
Yeah.
You listen to them. It should feel like a solution more than a pitch. If you can keep that in your mind, you'll be good.
You can coin a new phrase, solution sales.
There you go. Do I have to give you a royalty? Just kidding.
You've got it. It's all yours.
Yeah.
So in terms of you've now, I mean, you need to have lots of people to sell to. Okay, so there's two ways of either there's going out and finding prospects, okay, to build out a robust pipeline, but you can't rely on one source of where you get your leads from, et cetera, et cetera. You need to think about it in a more of a holistic way. And particularly today with technology in particular social media, et cetera, is it important for the individual that is doing the selling to be a thought leader, to be an authority in the area, and to that be reflected in their social media profiles?
Yeah, I mean, I think more and more so, and I'm guilty of this, okay? I'm guilty of not taking advantage of that. I'm guilty because I enjoyed a private life for the longest time. I enjoyed it,
Yes.
But the day and age is changing, like business is changing. The way we get leads is changing. If you don't have some type of social media presence, you're just shooting yourself in the foot.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I would say it's highly important. You can get a lot of leads that way.
Mm-hmm.
If you're like for you guys, for example, you do it very well. If anyone needs any type of advice from that, just watch these guys. They know what they're doing. And I just recently, in the past 6 months, decided to put more effort into social media and make the brand known, make myself known. Because again, I like the private life, but the times are changing. You have to do it. Yeah.
But things are changing because at the moment there are various platforms that we all know very well that effectively, because they're technically free, or some of them are not, you're starting to have to pay to use them. But essentially, you are the commodity.
Oh, yeah.
Commoditize yourself. Now, if you're going to be commoditizing yourself in social media, the new platforms coming on stream in Web3 are essentially going to sort of reverse that, which will put at the moment, we are slaves to technology. Yeah. Whereas where I like to see society 5.0 and all these terminologies, where you put the individual in the center, enabled by technology, and in particular where they have ownership of what they say, because they can monetize that data.
Yes.
In a way that is they're not going to be abused.
Right.
Digitally.
Yeah, I've always wondered, like, what is the sales industry going to look like in the metaverse? Like, what's it going to look like in the future? Because we're still going to have some form of it, but Absolutely. It's definitely going to change. It's definitely going to change. That's exciting.
It is, but the thing is, most people are thinking about the metaverse as another place.
Right.
Okay, it's not another place, and it's just an extension of this place. You go onto Google. You go look for a company. So I go SunTap Power, Arizona, right? And it gives me the name of the company, okay, the address. I have to copy and paste the address into Google Maps. I'll zoom in and I can do a blah, blah, blah. I can see where all that is going, okay? Well, okay, that you're already moving into a digital space representation, which is a photograph of your office or where you live or whatever in Phoenix, Arizona. Okay. What we have done is if you have this listing of SunTap Power on Open Business Platform, what happens is you can easily and very quickly in the location, click on that, and there's a metaverse, which is, people think it's Google Earth, but it's actually a one-to-one metaverse of Phoenix, Arizona. And there is your office. You then go into that office and then you create your own experience in the Web3 environment in that space.
How, I mean, yes.
You're bridging the gap between the 3D world
Yeah.
a
Yeah. No, I get it. It's
representation
crazy.
of your real world. So technology is only the technology that will succeed will be those technologies that basically just augment reality.
Right.
They don't go into this
soon?
hyper reality, which I think is dystopian.
Yeah, I agree. And it's exciting. Like just hearing you talk about it, I mean, like I get excited thinking about this. I'm a big fan of Ready Player One. Did you remember that book?
Yeah, I've seen it a couple of times.
Yeah.
No, seriously, we refer to it quite a lot. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So I am a big fan. I know it's coming. My question to you is how soon? Because I feel like right now it's still kind of like a cult phase, like the people that love it, you know what I mean? And we're all like appreciative of it. Mm-hmm. But when is it going to be mass adopted? Like how long do you think that'll actually take? If you had any idea?
There's two barriers. The first barrier is the misunderstanding of people going to that dystopian representation of the real world. We have to keep our feet on the ground, and we have to create. I mean, and we already are exporting ourselves into Google Earth. Think of it. Just that we go and we look at Street Map and we see how to navigate to that store, right? All we doing at Open Business Council is creating a portal where we can actually go down that street, and it's rendered in 3D, effectively in a gaming model. Wow. Using Unreal Engine and all these other fantastic tools. So it's a gamification, which is a digital twin, effectively, of the real world. But we still have that connection with the real world. We're not losing sight of, we're not all just like moving house into the metaverse, so to speak. We have to create that you can go and test, buy experiences and products and services in the metaverse and have a really wonderful experience with your music, with your, you can create your whole library could be represented in all your visuals in the metaverse, okay? Lucid dreams, blah, 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 okay?
Right.
Rather than somebody going onto YouTube and just listening to it or watching the video, they now have a 3D experience of that. Okay,
that's cool.
And then when they want to buy something, they're buying it and they bring it back to the real world. They're utilizing that. There's utility in the real world for that as well, because you can sell that product to them. You could create what, for example, something like sneakers, lucid dream sneakers, that you can design in the metaverse, test them out on you, and then they deliver to your house 24 hours later. Real.
Right.
You see?
It's coming.
That's the link.
Yeah. That's cool. My mind always goes toward like the far future when I hear this stuff. Yeah. Like I know it's already here, like we're already doing this stuff, but I start thinking about where is this headed for the next 500, 600 years, Do you see it becoming, obviously we're going to be doing things in this quote unquote metaverse that are far more profound than we can even imagine in just 100, 200 years, right? Mm-hmm. You familiar with Ray Kurzweil?
I know the name. I'm not familiar with it. Yeah.
I think his book is Singularity is Near.
Yes, I know what you mean. Yes.
So 2045, he has predictions. He's had pretty successful predictions in the past, but 2045, his prediction is that we'll reach some type of singularity where just the pace of technology just goes so fast, that we can't even see beyond the horizon of what it's going to be, right? Mm-hmm. And possibly even, live a lot longer than we expected, right? Based on just looking at, the first video games, remember those early days at the arcades, right? Ding, ding, exactly, right? Yeah. Those first games to where we are now, I see that it's going to be an exponential curve, right? And that's a lot what Ray Kurzweil talks about too, is we're not on a linear trajectory, we're on an exponential curve, right?
Yeah.
So is it likely that we're just going to be more involved and perhaps evolve into spending most of our time in this kind of world, and because it's far more interesting, and especially if we evolve out of our biological body, right? Let's say I'm going to speak real quick, and then let's just say we have, maybe some nanobots in the future that have, billions of little tiny robots that perhaps are even connected to the cloud, can connect to our visual cortex, connect to our brain, and make us feel like we're experiencing something that's not really happening in the physical world, right?
Yeah.
And then this gets into a funny topic, but once we are there, if we do ever reach that kind of point, I don't know. Maybe this is not a doomsday for me. This is more so just like maybe this is a possibility that we want to stay in that kind of realm. Maybe this is the reason why aliens aren't visiting us right now, because they have maybe done the same kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
They're in their own little world, maybe one day in that world is like 1,000 years for them.
I mean, there's a biological element to this, and there's a technology element, and the two will fuse together. So I look at things rather than I look at it as augmented reality. So it's not going to be, and we're already putting implants in people, to hear, to see, to be more tactile, for people now paraplegics to be able to walk. So those ethics will evolve until such time as it would be quite natural for us to have the electronics enabling us to do more interesting things, whether it's to do visually, thought-wise, creatively, physically, whatever. That is going to come. But I don't think we would have, I don't think we will ever lose that biological element, because then it's just machines. So there has to be that match. And that is why when we build the technology platforms we have that insight. But the most important thing is you put the individual in the center and enabled by technology, where they're in control of who they are, that they're not controlled by somebody else.
Right.
So these are the ethical decisions and discussions that everybody should be having on AI. AI, this whole story of AI, it's people are saying, oh, we should have put handrails on it. We should have put constraints in it from a legal perspective. And it's impossible to stop that. What we have to do is we have to try and stop bad practices. And any way you can do that is you put the individual at the center, enabled by technology, where they're in control of what they do. And
I would add to that, when you're talking about bad practices, I can't help but think about like human behavior in general. What cultivates human behavior, what shapes human behavior, and a lot of it from my perspective, I see, obviously the systems that we have in place, everything affects us, human behavior, government, the monetary system, that the drive for differential advantage, like all those things drive us to do certain things, in bad and good ways.
Yeah.
So hopefully when we get to that point when we have little tiny nanobots and things connected to our bodies, that hopefully, there's always going to be the people that do something bad, right? I always like to look at the doomsday scenario, but I'm more of an optimistic person. Like, I'm excited about this stuff coming, right?
Yes.
But there's going to be those people. Hopefully, as these technologies evolve, so does our slow moving politics and our slow government and our slow systems and our slow, it's time to, modernize that too. We need to get that up to date with how fast this world is moving,
But the challenge is that politics, or the people that we elect into power to manage the affairs of state for us, they don't want us to be too small, too smart, too informed, too empowered.
Yeah.
Because then they won't have a job.
Right. Simple as that.
Simple as that.
Yeah. It's true.
So it's how you stack up the incentives.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to manage the sewer system in disastrous Victorian sewer system in London. Okay, that's been delegated to companies, and they haven't done that for 50 years.
Oh yeah.
Now they're going to be doing it, and everybody's going to have to pay for it. I don't want to be able to do that. We delegate that to either private enterprise or to governments to do those sort of things that are utilitarian. Something that's utility for us. But now, we need to, as we move and go through our evolution with technology, it's the governance and the other stakeholders within our environment that need to be digitally transformed so that we are step change is the same.
Yeah. I think about that a lot. I think, we're so close to doing, I feel like we are on the cusp of really amazing things coming with technology. Like we're still infants, like internet's still new, So I think about, we have the means and the capability to create a quote unquote paradise. You know what I mean? Like we have the means to do so. We have the technology, we have the manpower or person power, if you want to be politically correct. We have the means to do it. We have the means to make a beautiful world, beautiful cities and raise the standard of living for everyone. How to go about it is the big question, because I hate seeing us still like operating on a Windows 98 system. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing as a world.
But we are slaves we are slaves to technology. So these new technologies that are coming our way, which are basically empowering ourselves, like ChatGPT-3,
right,
and ChatGPT-4, it's going to, anybody that doesn't embrace it now, okay, is going to be left behind. You talked about roofers, okay? You talked about doing the installations for SunTap Power, okay? For them, you just think they're doing a physical job. For them to learn and understand about the new developments in sustainable solar power and things like that, they just go to ChatGPT-3 and go and type in the problem that they're having and all the questions that they have, and they will get an answer. So if they start using it as a way of empowering them, they'll do a better job.
Right. I agree.
A lot of people are getting all excited about ChatGPT-3 being, we're going to, kids are getting their essays written and things like that. That's just sidebar. I mean, you need whatever job you need. You have to start using technology to make your job better, because the person who doesn't will be left behind.
Absolutely. I was laughing about this with my wife. I had a moment where I was just like, I've been working on this book for probably closer to a year, right? Yeah. And then this ChatGPT thing came out, and I was just like, come on, man. like I wish I could just write me a sales book. You know what I mean? Like, no. Yeah. But you get the point. It's just like, utilize it, but still use the human side of things.
Yeah, but the human side, this is the most important thing. So if you had asked ChatGPT-3 to write your book, okay, which was the 21 hacks to sell more deals, okay?
Yeah.
Without saying that, because it probably would pick up and go through your book and give a summary of your book anyway.
Right.
But if you asked it and you looked at things like sales pitches, how to create pipelines, how to do referrals, how to do impressions, it'll give you it all there. It's all there. Oh, yeah. Okay. It's 101 stuff, but it doesn't have the experience, the stories, the illustrative things that make it real, authentic. We talked about being authentic as a salesperson. Even if you write in the book, you can get an AI engine to write a book for you, but does it have soul? Does it have experience? Does it have humanity? And that's what you've done.
Yeah, I even deliberately
all your experience there and put it in a book.
Exactly. I used a little bit of humor throughout the book, right? Because I find things funny. And that's the one thing that ChatGPT would never do is, in my opinion, is, for one, make good jokes.
Yeah.
So far. And then two, deliberately make mistakes in the book. You know what I mean? Like I deliberately cut a sentence in half, didn't put certain punctuations and things in certain places on purpose. ChatGPT won't do that yet. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Maybe I'm wrong, but
you're doing that to get people's attention.
Yeah. So
are you really reading? No, this is very interesting. I could talk for hours on this.
Yeah, me too. But the day's gonna get away.
And I'd love to be able to come back to some of these ideas that we've talked about,
Yeah.
particularly things in the metaverse, and explore that. Bryan, it's been a really, really interesting 50 minutes, and one of the most interesting and enlightening times I've spent interviewing somebody. And I really, really, really applaud the Renaissance man you are. Essentially, your music, your writing, your creativity, your focus on sustainability, and basically you're dealing with people. You want to empower people, and I applaud that. And thank you very, very much indeed for the time today. And if everybody wants to get hold of you, how do they do that?
Well, thank you for that, man. I should bring you around on my speaking events. If you could just start like that, maybe people will listen. I'm just kidding. They can find me at BryanGentry.com. So that's BryanGentry.com. And there'll be links to the book and stuff. And it just came out today, so I'm pretty excited about that. The book is now it's just now on Amazon, hardcover, paperback, all that. Or you can find me on social media, Bryan Gentry.
Brilliant. Bryan, thank you very much indeed for a wonderful, wonderful hour.
Awesome. Thanks, Hilton.
Good luck, and talk to you soon. Take care.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
If you're interested in knowing more about Citiesabc with openbusinesscouncil.org and fashionabc.org, go to our platforms, as well as you can also find me on social media and direct message me, Hilton Supra, on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And do go to the other interviews we have done on YouTube. And don't forget to like and comment. Thank you very much for your time and engaging with this interview on Citiesabc.